Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chakra Way Meditation Podcast. I am really delighted to have Naomi Morad with me today as my guest. And we've already just been chatting about how we are literally the same person. We share so much in our approach and what we do. But Naomi is a psychosomatic trauma therapist and uses a lot of really interesting modalities. And actually, I saw a few on your website. It's like, oh, I need to ask about that. So I just disappear and look at that in a moment. But welcome, Naomi. Thank you so much for joining me all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. How are you today? Thank you for being here.
I am great and I'm very excited to be here with you. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I feel like we don't know what our thread is yet, but it will come. And I'm always, the thing that I always ask people is how you got into this work, because being as, the psychosomatic stuff that I find utterly fascinating. That's completely what I do, but with slightly different kind of title on it, I suppose. And I find the subject of trauma really interesting because we have big trauma, PTSD type trauma, what I call trauma with a big T, and then we have the traumas that the majority of people have, little t traumas, just little things that have happened that have scarred us in some way, that have created some samskara within. So what drew you to this work? How did you get into it? Tell me your story.
I guess the big T trauma drew me into this.
Right.
Although I knew even before my trauma started surfacing, which was only around the age of 27, 28.
Mm,
Until then, I had all the symptoms. I was severely depressed, even though my life was great at the time and I had no reason to be depressed. And yet I found myself unable to snap out of my depression.
mm,
Um, and a part of me was really like, I remember sitting in my room and thinking, I know that I want to help people, but I don't know how. I know that I'm not called to go the traditional path of traditional psychotherapy. I was always very connected to the body-mind connection.
mm. Yeah.
There's like a truth that my body held for me that even though I didn't know how to access it at a time, um,
You knew it.
I knew it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a wonderful thing. And it's such a great thing that some of us just like, yeah, this is completely makes sense because when you know it as such a deep truth and you talk to others about it as well, it's one of those irrefutable things that once you know, you know. And if you've just sort of, it comes to you, then wonderful. But if you get told, it's like, oh, right, massive realization moment, big aha. Yeah, so nice.
Yeah, and then eventually my depression took over my life and I couldn't snap out of it. I already had two children. I was happily married. I had no reason objectively to feel the way I feel.
Mm,
And yet I did. And a friend of mine at the time, she referred me to a somatic body worker who she said really helped her husband and he helped her and I should go and see him. I was like, okay. And I had tried traditional therapy in the past, didn't really get very far. Tried it twice, was interesting, but not really for me.
mm,
Um, and that work really like opened my world into healing.
mm,
And
mm,
the method he was working with at the time was called the Greenberg method. And I knew that that was not ultimately the work I wanted to do, but it was a great tool set for me to start studying. I
mm.
didn't know where or what at that time. That was 26 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I just knew that I had to find my calling.
Mm.
And I said, okay, I have to start somewhere. So it was a 3 year training to become a certified body worker, working somatically, working through the body, awakening trauma and patterns and the way we walk through life through the body. And I said, okay, this is great,
Mm.
but not enough. So now I'm an expert in awakening trauma, but I don't have enough tools on how to help people actually then support them as the trauma surfaces.
Ah, yeah, key. Yeah.
Important detail.
You can get there, but then you've got to deal with the results. Yes, yes.
So I just kept on studying and always learning another modality, new techniques, because body, mind, soul, I think we're like endless. And there's
Oh,
so many ways to explore and to understand. And
mm,
every modality I've studied gave me like another insight, another angle, another understanding how I can go deeper and how I can be more supportive of what's
yeah,
coming my way.
yeah. I love that. And I find it actually this is what I'm going to get deep into because I find this really interesting. So I think to somebody who doesn't really kind of hasn't really done any of this work, you say, you know, somatic work took place. And you're like, okay, so I understand the word somatic means movement, body, but there's so many different ways. Now, for me, my somatic work is very directed through my yoga. So I class that as a somatic work. And I would imagine some others do as well. So when you go, so I've never done somatic work in terms of like I'm going to a somatic practitioner or whatever. So what form does this somatic work take? Because like there's yoga, there's all sorts of different things. There's TRE, which is that sort of shaking, which is
Hmm.
amazing. I like, and I love to magpie. I like take a little bit. Oh, I'm like, oh yes, I like that. I'll take a little bit of that because we're in a yoga class. I've got this captive audience. We I can do what the on earth I like in this moment. So talk to me about all of these different somatics because you've got on your website there's a lovely thing where you've got all of the different things, and there's three that I've picked out here that I want to know what they are. Tell me more. So one is brain spotting,
Yes.
one is SSP protocol, safe and sound protocol, another is matrix and energetics. So are these part of this recovery? Because I don't want to skip over that really important part that someone has a breakthrough in their recovery or in their trauma and they suddenly go, I realize what's going on. Um, your camera's gone off. I'd love to see you,
Oh,
Naomi.
really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Why did
Maybe
that happen?
your connection maybe fell out or something.
Now,
Oh, now I just get pink. That's
wait.
exciting.
Ah,
Oh, there you are. And you're
I
back.
am. Am I back?
Yes, you're
Okay.
back. Yeah,
Hold on
wonderful.
a second.
So, yeah, I don't want to gloss over the importance of this when you have a breakthrough and then how to deal with it. But let's just stick with this for now. Somatic work. Talk to me a little bit in more detail about what that means to you and the different methods you have.
So, everything that happens to us, okay, when we're joyful, when we're happy, we have a somatic reaction, meaning somatic meaning felt body sense. It means we
Mm,
feel excitement and our heart may be pounding because we're excited. We can breathe easy. The body feels light.
hmm. We smile.
We smile, right? And you
Yeah.
walk by someone who's happy, you can sense like a whiff of like nice, good energy.
Yeah.
Someone who's calm, you will sense their calmness next to you. The same way we feel when someone is scared or angry. It's like we carry that in our body. We carry the fear in our body, the anger. Um, It's like, okay, I want to stay out of their way. Like, this is not safe next to that person, or I don't like their energy.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
same when
absolutely.
we're sad and depressed, there's a heaviness. We don't have much
Hmm.
energy. We feel dragged down. Every step
Yeah.
is too much. So every emotion has an impact in the way we feel.
Mm. And it has a vibration that
Yeah,
we feel
very
that
true.
that your neighbor, the person next to you, actually is has a tangible sensation of. Yeah.
Yeah, even if they don't understand what it is that they're sensing, but we
Mm.
pick it up.
Yeah.
That's why we like to be around certain people and we like less to be around other people.
Hmm.
And the same with trauma and the things that happened, our experiences in our lives, like when we're scared, when our parents scream at us, or we hear our parents fighting, or we're going through abuse, or we're being laughed at by other children in school, or being ridiculed. There is a physical memory of this in our bodies. So
Yeah.
think of it like an imprint. And maybe our mind doesn't remember, and we can't really say why we feel that way because we have dissociated from it. We have split, like our mind has split from that memory in order to protect ourselves because it was so painful in that moment. But the body still remembers.
Yeah. Really. Yeah.
And that's what I work with because in regular talk therapy, we can talk about the fears and the anxiety a person has, but we only have access what's in our neocortex in our like logical part of the brain.
Mm.
But here we only have in our frontal cortex, we have a logical explanation for the way we feel, and we rationalize and we try to make sense of it and we try to understand something that we actually don't have access to. And we don't even know that we don't have access to it. We don't even know that we don't actually remember what
Mm.
happened and why we feel the way we feel.
Yeah.
And all the work I do is around why. Like, because when we heal the root cause,
Yeah.
that's when we can heal the
Yeah.
depression today. That's when we can resolve the anxiety today. It's only when we work with the root cause of our pain,
Mm.
that's when things begin to shift and change.
So I feel like this obviously makes really good sense. Um, and I feel like there's a lot of us going through, and you yourself said you went through many years of your life feeling this depression, this weight, and not really knowing what story was attached to it. You didn't really do this joining up the dots. Was it very clear to you what it was when you started to do this work? Because I feel like there's a lot of people who go through life with this kind of heaviness and not really, and because I feel like the body's very good. If I use myself as an example, I know in my mind that I have had traumatic things happen to me, but I know I know that I'm going to kind of process them, but I know that a lot of my life, I just put them in a box over there, and it was like it didn't happen to me. I basically just cut that off. I have no emotional attachment to that particular event. I know it happened to me, but it's like it happened, like I read it in a book or something, it happened to somebody else. And I think it's very intelligent in a way because it's very protective of the mind and the body to go, no, we don't actually need to bring that up every day because you'd be on the floor crying every day if we were thinking about that. Yet, it could be something that is then impacting how we behave, how we show up. It's restricting us perhaps from living our fullest life and our greatest purpose, and being having fulfilling relationships, or whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, what did you have a cognizant awareness of what your trauma was when you went into this healing, or did it come to at you like, oh my God, I'd completely forgotten about that? How did that show up for you?
I was completely, when I say completely, completely. dissociate it. That means I had shut it off, put it into the box,
Hmm.
um, because sometimes that's our best survival mechanism.
Yeah.
Because at the time of trauma, we had no way of protecting ourselves. There was nothing we could have done. Um,
Yeah.
and the best thing in that moment is just to split, to dissociate, to put it into that box, like you said, and it stays in that box, and I don't have
Hmm.
to remember. It's
Yeah.
like a um box that keeps it safe, the
Yeah.
memory,
Yeah.
until I'm ready. And some people are never ready, or we are only ready to access parts of it, and that's okay. I always say our subconscious knows exactly how much or little information to reveal at each given
Mm.
point in time.
Mm.
We never remember or access a memory that we're not ready to cope with.
Mm. That's very comforting
Yes.
because I think a lot of people are like, there's some deep stuff there and I'm too scared to go there. And I don't know what's there and it could be terrifying. Yeah.
And to be honest, sometimes it is terrifying and it's really painful to access
Mm.
those memories. And yet, in my 20 something years that I've been doing this, I can say both for all of the clients that I've worked with over these years, including myself, I have never worked with someone that has accessed a memory that was so painful that they fell to pieces.
Yeah.
It might have been very difficult, it might have been painful, it might have taken some time to process it, but they were ready to face that pain. And
Yeah.
that's why it came to surface, because it was relevant to what was going on in their lives at the time.
Mm. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. It's again, it's that trust in the body and trust in the mind that actually, you know, they say, the universe never gives you more than you can deal with. You are stronger than you think. You have everything within you that you need in order to get through everything. So it's just another way of putting that, but it's a very comforting thing to be able to trust your own body and to trust your own mind because sometimes our minds can be cruel and difficult. And I'm sure, if you're in a place of difficulty in your life and you're just thinking, I just don't know how I'm ever going to get out of this, it's a very encouraging thing to know that everything is transient, things pass, but you are strong enough to deal with it. And that's a very powerful
Yes,
piece of
I agree
knowledge.
with you. And I think the fear of touching the pain
Mm.
is is often bigger than the pain itself.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, waiting to open that bill that's been sat on the side
Exactly.
for 2 weeks. You're like, I can't open it. And you just tormented yourself over it. And then you open it, you go, oh, I can actually
Right.
do that. It's fine. Once it's paid, pff, done, it's gone.
It's
Yeah.
exactly like that. And I always say we carry our pain everywhere we go.
Yeah.
It takes up so much space in our lives. And we keep taking it to work, to our family,
Mm.
with our children, with our friends. It shows up everywhere. We go to sleep with it
Yeah.
and we wake up with it.
Yeah.
And it takes up so much of our energy. And when we are ready to look at that pain, then we can deal with it. It's like
Yeah.
that bill, it can sit there and it can take up my energy. And for weeks, I'll think about that bill that is sitting inside that envelope that I need to look at. But once I take action and I open that envelope and I look at the bill, then I can find a way to resolve that issue.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
it won't go away until I don't decide to actually sit down and open that envelope.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and in your experience, do you find that the most people can already name the trauma that is holding them back, or do they just come in feeling just lost and stuck exhausted or depressed, do you find that people come in just with a sense of dissatisfaction, a sense of or unease, I should say, and then you start uncovering what it is, or do they come and go, right, my parents did this and I'm mad about it and it's affecting my life? How do you find it goes?
Both.
Yeah.
But the interesting part is even those that, and I'm going to backtrack for a second. Pretty much every single person that shows up in my office, I'd say 90% of the people that show up are people who have reached the point of desperation, where they just can't take it anymore, whether they understand what it is that they can't take anymore, or they're just so depressed or so anxious or so stuck that they don't know, like they can't take it anymore. So it's like, help me, save me.
Yeah.
I need to resolve this in my life. I want to feel better. I'm ready to do the work. I'm ready to open the envelope. That's basically what they're saying.
Right.
And then there are people who say they have a whole story around why they're feeling the way they're feeling. Those are the people often who are also more rational, like they need to have an explanation because it makes them feel safe. And they'll have a whole story of my father did this, my mother did this, this and this and this happened to me. But at the end of the day, it does make a difference to me because we don't really know until we start processing.
Mm.
So we may
Yeah.
think it's connected to X, but there's something, a much deeper level layer underneath that
Yeah.
story that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
What's causing the pain in our lives today.
Yeah. Okay, so I understand that. So what we're talking about now sounds like it could just be you asking questions, them talking, like an exchange of information, very much like talking therapy. So there's a shift that happens. So we're not, yes, of course, there's a conversation to be had and there's ideas to be introduced, but I want to get back to that question I asked a little while ago about the somatic work and how you employ that in order to help people find release and find healing. So, what does that actually look like? Like, if I'm walking into your office, what am I expected to do? Are you going to be hands-on? Am I moving? Am I jumping up and down? Like, what is happening?
So first of all, you're sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
Uh, you are conscious, so I don't do any kind of hypnosis or anything. Your eyes are open, you're communicating, and yet all the processing that is happening is not from your neocortex, from your logical thinking mind, but we
Hmm.
bypass the thinking mind and go straight. We work with the emotion, the felt body sense. So, for example, somebody comes in and they feel a lot of anger, okay? And we're today looking at the anger. They had a big fight with their husband, whatever, and they come very charged with that anger. I would ask, I'm less interested in the story of what happened during that argument,
Hmm.
more in where do you feel that anger in your body?
Yeah.
It's like a tornado in my stomach. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so just notice that. And I work with three main techniques. So I work with brain spotting, with parts work, and inner child healing.
Yeah.
Those are my three pillars, and they all work and blend well into one another.
So talk to me about brain spotting. I'm interested to know because I've not ever heard of brain spotting before. So you've introduced me to a new modality, which I love.
Have you heard about EMDR?
Yes.
So a lot of people have. So brain spotting was developed by David Grant, who was teaching EMDR in 2003 or something like that. Don't hold me to the year. And while he was teaching EMDR, he came across the technique of brain spotting. meaning that in brain spotting, we also work with the eyes,
Hmm.
but it's a lot more organic, and it's a really gentle therapeutic technique that helps people process and release deep emotions and past trauma. And in brain spotting, we say where you look affects the way you feel. It means
Mm.
even as we're having a conversation right now, part of the time your eyes will go to the right or to the left, or I will look out the window because it helps us think about what we're talking about. It's not
Mm.
because we're trying to avoid eye contact. We're having a
Mm.
great conversation here, but our eyes veer in different directions at times because when we do that, it helps us process what we're thinking about.
Yes.
So it's very organic. So in brain spotting, I would ask the person, I have a pointer that I work with,
Okay.
okay? And with that pointer, I will check in the client's vision field where they feel most connected to that tornado, the anger they feel in their stomach. And I would check, like, is it on your left, in the middle, on your right? And I will find the exact spot that connects with that anger that they're feeling and experiencing. And
Okay.
then they start processing everything that is related to that anger. And it's never about what just happened 5 minutes ago at home, okay? It's all the times that they felt that anger, how that anger shows up in their lives, everything that is related to that anger. And often people go back to early childhood memories, first
Mm.
time where they felt unsafe, when they felt that anger, but there was no words for it. And we then work with that inner child and validating, first of all, becoming aware of that inner child that actually lives inside of us that we're not even aware of.
Mm.
Again,
Mm.
that part that lives in the box the lid is on, and we've had to keep it there because that was the safest way to cope with it.
Yeah.
And basically, that's where we do the work. So becoming
Okay.
aware what's happening in the body, processing that, mindfully processing. And it's a very gentle way to clear the root cause of our pain.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think this is just so valuable because it feels like, and I'm sure it is, really quite a gentle process. It feels like there's no big revelations. There's probably release, and I'm sure some people get emotional when they get to the bottom of a particular little thorny part where there's an emotional release. But again, that's a beautiful somatic healing technique. Having a good cry is nothing better than that. But it feels really kind of safe, actually, what you're talking about. So you talked about parts work, which I know about and I find absolutely fascinating. There's a little technique that I sometimes use for people, but I'd love to get your opinion on this and see whether this is indeed parts work, because I've said I'm a little magpie and I go around picking up things that I like and that resonate for me and I think that I can employ usefully. And this is like you identify all the different parts of you. So, the your inner clown and your inner mother and your inner accountant, your inner schoolmistress, your inner, there's all of these parts of you that you bring out to certain. And finding whether there is then relationship between, your inner clown, is it there to comfort and entertain your inner child? Is your inner school mistress very strict in order to keep the inner child safe? Or that, like, what is that a part of inner parts work? Or is that just some random thing that I picked up from some place?
It's definitely a part.
Yeah.
And I just had this week, I don't remember what climate it was, but it was like there's just that loud clown that kept showing up for her. So we just gave that clown a voice. We say, okay, if that clown would speak, what would it say?
Mm.
And then we give those parts a voice and we find out like who they are. And they're usually always some kind of a protector part.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I can ask, why is it, if you were to ask that clown, why is it important that you're here? That's when we really get the answer often of what is really there. Like, why is it important? Because often we feel like we don't want that part. Like that part is scary, it is not wanted, it is keeping me stuck, and yet that part is there. And a
And
lot
it
of
keeps
that
showing
part
up.
work,
Yeah.
yeah, is about acknowledging those parts
Mm.
and getting to know them instead of
Yeah.
alienating them, which we've done our whole life because they were so uncomfortable.
Mm.
It's getting to know them, opening that door and really giving them a voice,
Yeah.
making them feel heard because all of those younger parts that created those parts didn't feel safe during the time
Mm.
of trauma
Yeah. Yeah.
and they weren't heard and they weren't seen.
Yeah, exactly. And you said also that inner child work is a big part of your work, which is obviously really important. That sort of, when we're a child, sort of before the age of 9, I suppose, sometimes some would say 7, but that type area. For me, I find that a lot of my clients, a lot of trauma and protection is put in place during the teenage years. So the inner teenager, the inner child gets a lot of airtime, but I think the inner teenager is one that is oh my gosh, it goes through so much. That poor teenager, from the age of what, 12, 13, when you go through mad hormone change, your body's changing, everything's changing, up to the age of, I don't know, 16, 17, 18. Like you're so vulnerable. You're trying to make so many decisions from a place of where you think you know what you're doing, but actually you have not a clue what you're up to. And there's so much damage that can be done during those years, I feel. I feel like that's a really important part. Do you find that as well?
Definitely, the teenage years can be very painful. And with that being said, the teenage years are also shaped by our first years. It means
Yes.
like how, what, what story do I come in with into my
Yeah.
teenage
Yeah.
years?
What kind of
Who
boundaries
am
have you
I?
got already? Yeah.
What kind of boundaries or lack of boundaries do
Mm,
I have already? What's happened to me? Like, I don't know. I'm thinking of one of my clients who was sexually abused as a little girl and then later on found herself pregnant multiple
mm,
times.
mm,
Because lack of boundaries, lack of understanding, no sense of self.
mm, mm,
So, depending on what a person went through, that will also dictate in a big part how much they will rebel during
mm.
their teenage years. How much
Yeah.
need do I have to rebel? How many younger parts are screaming out for help?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then with the hormones coming in, it's like those parts go mad.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you're so right, of course, but I think that it's also, when we go to actually, get on our knees and talk to the inner child, that's one thing, but I think it's also really interesting and supportive to sit down and talk to your inner teenager as well. I just
Oh,
think that
yeah.
they needed so much advice. It's okay, darling. You didn't know. It's okay. Maybe it's me. I spend quite a lot of time with my inner teenager going, that's okay. Can you tell? Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and for sure. And the beauty about the work that I do is that I don't have to decide where the client goes. Like
Mm,
it's the client's nervous system that takes the client to the age they need to go. And
mm,
sometimes they'll first go to teenage years or they'll go to their 20s.
mm.
And then they'll slowly go backwards and then they will go address the younger parts, you know? Everyone is so individual and so different. And the parts that show up and need to be heard, they'll just come to surface. And then we
Mm,
can work with those parts.
yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
our
I
body, our nervous system knows exactly, again, what parts are ready to surface and what are not.
yeah. Yes, exactly. So talk to me a little bit about the SSP protocol, the Safe and Sound protocol, because that sounds like a beautiful place to work from.
The Safe and Sound protocol is basically it's bilateral music. You put on headsets and you listen to that music, and it helps your nervous system to regulate itself and calm down.
Okay.
To be honest, it's the thing that I use least
Okay.
because I think it's good, and yet I don't feel, at least, and I know some people do amazing work with it. It was
Mm.
just not the thing that I found most efficient.
But it's a thing that you've got in your arsenal should you require it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that you deal with um, a lot of people who, or one of your specialities is dealing with people who have PTSD. And I'm imagining that again, it's not just like, oh, we've uncovered, or they come to you going, I'm suffering with PTSD, and X, Y, and Z hasn't worked. Maybe you can. It's again, it's very much down to the person, and that's very, very, very personal situation, isn't it? What the healing modality is going to be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very personal. You mean which healing modality I'll use?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I will use brain spotting, parts work, and inner child healing with
Mm.
pretty much every client
Yeah. Yeah.
because um, it really helps work with the client at their own personal pace.
Yeah.
It's not forceful, but it's extremely deep. It's a way to learn to listen again to those parts that felt hurt, damaged, severed, is one of the client's words that they used the
Mm.
other day,
Yeah.
as a result of the trauma. And today, the PTSD is just, the effects of the trauma.
Mm.
Even look at it, the client who was raped as a child and later on got pregnant several times, and part of the PTSD is the shame today that she carries for those pregnancies that she had.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's all interconnected. And when we heal the pain around the trauma and go through the layers of the pain, um, for me, PTSD is just another name.
Yeah, yeah,
I know
agreed.
it's another label that we use in
Exactly.
order to describe a symptom that is
Yeah.
a result of, we could also say the anxiety the person comes into the office with is PTSD. Everything is
Mm.
PTSD.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's all dealing with trauma that has happened in the past.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it, how we label things and how we like to label things. And that's that brilliant old brain again going, now come on, let's put it all nice and neatly filed away. Whereas the body doesn't hold things quite so neatly. It'll shove them around until it finds a home that it can live in and do what it needs to do. And then we have to eke that out. Yeah, yeah. No, it's such
Love that
beautiful work.
explanation. It's so true.
It's so beautiful the work you do. Let me tell me about your book. I know you've got a couple of books on Amazon, Awakening Your Inner Light and Seeing Beautiful, which looks rather lovely. Tell me about these books.
I started writing poetry about 3 years ago,
Right.
and um, Awakening Your Inner Light is was really my first poetry collection,
Hmm.
and my calling to publish it. And it really tells I think it pretty much, in a way, it tells the story of my life through poetry and transformation and healing.
Mm.
And I has drawings inside with every poem there's a drawing that I felt called to come up with and
Yeah.
just place the drawings with the poetry. It was my one of my sons, he says, "Mom, it's one of your passion projects." I get very passionate about something and then I put all of my energy into that.
Yeah.
And that was my passion project at the time. And I thought,
Yeah.
I really want to do this. And yeah,
Yeah.
and the book came out of it.
Wonderful. Well, I do love a little bit of poetry. I have a little growing collection of poetry books,
Ah,
by people who I've talked to for the podcast, and they are always really beautiful. And as a yoga teacher, when I'm teaching like a big yoga retreat or a yoga day or something, poetry really lands with people it's really bizarre because a lot of people will go, well, I don't really know anything about poetry and I don't really understand it and I don't think I'm going to understand it. And but actually it's just such a beautiful way of communication that is so free. And and I think that the mind, the body really responds well to it. I get really good, incredible responses when I read a really good poem. So I'm always on the lookout for a good poetry book. So I might have a look.
so I think poetry is really, it's an expression of the soul. That's how I
Mm,
feel.
yeah.
And in poetry, you can say things in a way that you could never say them and then otherwise.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Um, and that gives it a different vibration, a different frequency. It hits and it lands in a very different way, and it's very intentional. And I love that. So I can see that on your website that both of those are available on Amazon. Naomi, it's been an absolute joy talking to you. I feel like I could literally go through this list of all the modalities you've got and go, right, let's talk about this, let's talk about that. I would really, maybe we should do that one day. Um, but it's been an absolute joy. Tell people how they can reach you, how they can look at your beautiful website and see all this list of lovely modalities that you use that I've been looking at. How can people get hold of you?
Um, Best way to reach me is through my website, naomimorad.com. And I work with people all over the world, which means that I work both online and in person.
Mhm.
So, first thing I do when somebody reaches out through my website, it's the easiest way to reach me. I have intro call where we can just get to know each other. People can ask questions,
Yeah.
and only from there we'll take it to the next step if we're a
Yeah.
good fit.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's is pretty much exactly how I work as well. People find me and then we have a chat. It's all good. Thank you, Naomi. You are an absolute inspiration and really a wealth of beautiful knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing with us and with me today. I've really loved meeting you.
Thank you so much, Roseanne.